Hi, Levi. Ambassador Danon is on the line. I'm going to go on mute.
Thank you. Ambassador Danon, thank you so much for joining us today on the TŌV Podcast.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
I just finished your book, In the Lion's Den, Israel in the World. It was a wonderful read. I really enjoyed hearing about all your stories and your dealings in the United Nations. So thank you for that great work.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a wonderful piece. In fact, I'd recommend that all of our TŌV listeners out there and those viewing on the YouTube channel head over to Amazon.com right now and purchase In the Lion's Den, Israel in the World. And you're going to see what Israel has to deal with on a world stage. And really, actually, I learned some interesting things about the inner workings of the United Nations, which was so helpful. Ambassador Danon, I know that our time is short today, and so I have several questions that I wanted to ask you. First of all, in your book, you mention a fact which I think most of our listeners will find surprising and somewhat hopeful. And you said that there are some Arab leaders who desire to have diplomatic relations with Israel, even though they have to take a different stance publicly. Can you comment a little bit more on that?
One of the things I was very surprised to find out is the gap between the public UN and the private UN, where publicly some of the Arab leaders will defame Israel, and actually we realize that they actually support Israel. And behind closed doors, they shared with me their admiration to Israel. And I tried to convince some of them to publicly acknowledge what we're actually doing behind closed doors. I'm very happy that I was very involved in drafting and working with many partners who signed the Abraham Accords, a very important achievement for the stability in the region. And I know that there are more countries that in the future can join those important accords.
Yeah, well, we're certainly praying that's the case. We hope that's the case because peace, obviously, in the Middle East isn't just for Israel. There are a great many people who will benefit if more countries choose to engage Israel in a relationship. Another topic that you spend quite a bit of time on is the BDS movement. And there may be some listeners today, maybe they haven't heard of the BDS movement. Perhaps they've heard of it, but they don't know what's it about. Why is this movement so dangerous and hateful?
Well, the BDS movement is a very dangerous movement. You know, they call to boycott Israel, divert investments and apply sanctions. And that's something we cannot sit idly by. I think it's a new form of anti-Semitism. And that's why I decided that, we should not be quiet about it. And even at the UN, when people were trying to apply double standards or sometimes in different ways, I was very vocal and active against it.
Yeah. Because as you point out in the Lion's Den, the BDS movement says they're not about the destabilization of Israel. They say they're not about eroding the Jewish state. But when in fact, some of the folks who were involved in the movement have said absolutely that's the case. Is that right?
Absolutely. And we know that they are well funded by some of the radical actors at the UN. And that's something that we decided to expose. And I'm happy today, more states in the U.S. passed legislation against BDS. And even in the Congress, there is legislation against BDS. So that's what we should do. We should boycott those who are boycotting Israel.
Yeah. And of course, I know a couple times in your book you reference the scriptures, and I'm a big believer in Genesis 12, verse 3, which says that those who bless Abraham and his descendants stand to receive a blessing, and those who curse will stand to receive a cursing. And I think over and over again throughout the centuries, that biblical truth has played itself out time and time again. And so as you mentioned in your book, it's really a fool's errand. And you only harm yourself by opposing the Jewish people being in their homeland. Now, not a lot of people... Go ahead.
One of the things I found out that actually, when you you speak about the biblical connection to the land, and you quote from the Bible, you gain respect from many, many leaders. And some of my colleagues told me that, it was never done as part of diplomacy. But for me, I'm a believer, and I thought it was an asset for us. And every time when I read from my Bible, people were amazed to learn more and to get connected to the stories and to the history of Israel.
Yeah, that's right. And I know for me, myself, as a Bible reader, being in the land of Israel, my wife and I had the opportunity to live in Netanya for about a year. We've been in many other trips. Seeing the Bible in 3D is what I say, but walking around where these things took place has been so enriching for my faith and my Bible reading. It really is wonderful. And so we try to get as many people to Israel as we can. You mentioned your reference of the scriptures, and not a lot of people, Ambassador Danon, can say that they have a viral YouTube video. But of course, speaking at the UN in April of 2019, you declared your view that God has given the land deed of Israel to the Jewish people. And you based that thought on the scriptures. You based that belief on the Bible. Well, millions of evangelical Christians, including myself, read their Bibles and agree with this. Why, in your opinion, do the nations resist Israel's right to and return to the land?
Well, when you look at the history of Israel and the Jewish people, there was always someone against us. When you read the Bible, you see the one who came against us and throughout history. And that is the case today with the Iranians. And as you mentioned, when I gave the speech, I framed it the Bible speech where I spoke about our eternal connection to the land. I said it very clear that, we overcame the Babylonians, we overcame the Roman Empire, and we will overcome the Iranian regime today. But always there will be somebody there that will come against us. But we are lucky that we have a lot of friends, a lot of Christians supporting Israel that are standing with us, and that's why we prevail every time.
Yeah, that's right. Well, some have said that God is on your side, and certainly it appears to be the case if we read our Bibles. You mentioned that there's a lot of Christian support for Israel, and I would completely agree with that. I think Christians need to be on the front lines when it comes to combating all forms of anti-Semitism, whether it be a religious form, whether it be, as you said, the new anti-Semitism, which cloaks itself in this boycott, divestment movement, and so forth. Your family, as you mentioned in your book, has a long history of supporting the right of return to the land of Israel, or what we might call Zionism, the simple belief that the Jewish people have a right to live in a free homeland and in security. This organization that I'm with today, which is now called Life in Messiah, it used to be called the Chicago Hebrew Mission. It was founded by a man named William Blackstone. I'm not sure if you've heard that name before, but it was founded in 1887, and the late Jewish Supreme Court Justice, Louis Brandeis, agreed that the founder of modern Zionism was likely William Blackstone because his work predates that of Herzl. My question for you, Ambassador Danon, is, have you heard of William Blackstone before?
No, I haven't, but I'm very friendly with many communities around the world, and in my book, in The Lion's Den, I describe the importance of collaboration between the Jews and Christians standing together against evil.
Yeah.
Because, first they come against the Saturday people, and then they come against the Sunday people. That's why we have to stand together against evil. That's the only way we can prevail.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so I wanted to bring his name up to you. In 1891, there was something called the Blackstone Memorial that was put in place. Essentially, as you know, in the late 1800s, there was something called pogroms going on. Eastern Europe was full of state-sponsored riots and violence against the Jewish people. William Blackstone was a strong supporter of the Jewish people. And he got basically governors, he got presidents around the world to sign this declaration saying what should be done for the Russian Jewish population. Should we not give them the land of Palestine? And the Jewish National Fund was supposed to honor Blackstone with a national forest. And this was going on in about the 1960s. And as you know, 1967 happens, the Six-Day War happens. And I don't know if records got lost. I don't know if they found out that William Blackstone was an ardent Christian. But ever since then, that plan has largely been disposed of. And so if there's an opportunity here for us to build bridges together, excuse me, I know that's a phrase that you use in your book quite often, building bridges. And that's what we're all about too. And so maybe we can talk again off record about William Blackstone and how to best honor him, because he is responsible for helping save the lives of thousands upon thousands of Jewish people, and his legacy still endures today.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the details, but I definitely agree. We have to honor anyone who stood with the Jewish people. It's never easy, and we have to honor those who sacrificed and were willing to pay a heavy price for that, standing together and building those bridges.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, in conclusion, Ambassador Danon, I wonder how our listeners today, how would you address them in terms of how they can be supporting Israel today? How can they be praying for Israel and the Jewish people with the unique challenges that you have?
So first, we are grateful for those who pray for us, and I want to thank those who are standing and praying for us. And in my book, In the Lion's Den, which is available now on Amazon and in the bookstores, I speak about it, that it's not enough to say we support Israel. You have to take, the extra step, be more active, demand from your congressman to stand with Israel. And I will give you an example. President Biden is arriving to Israel within a few weeks, and he intends to actually visit Palestinian institutions in Jerusalem, in East Jerusalem. That's something that never happened. So anyone who believes that Jerusalem should stay the united capital of the Jewish people should be vocal about it and demand that, we welcome the president and we are honored that he's visiting us. But at the same time, we don't think it's appropriate that he would actually send a message that there is maybe a hope to divide Jerusalem in the future.
Well, very good. Well, Ambassador Danon, thank you so much for your time today, and God bless you and your continued work. And we hope that you're successful in what other future political aspirations you might have.
Thank you very much. God bless you all.
All right. Until next time, shalom.